So, what on earth are the managers at WPC thinking? They have come out with some pretty big news, and we have seen the share price absolutely tank. Now, I had been slowly and steadily adding to our holding in WPC over the last couple of months as the prices began to come down a little bit, getting a little bit excited. They have a very strong history of dividend increases. They have, in my mind, quite a strong, stable balance sheet. I thought they were also very well managed, very conservatively managed as well. Now, perhaps that's part of the key, is this idea of conservatively managed. They've got a very strong industrial portfolio, which is absolutely fantastic. That's one of the key things I was looking for. They've got some good geographic exposure there as well, both in the USA as well as in Europe. So what exactly are they doing, and why is this a little bit concerning? Obviously, they are looking at their overall portfolio and they can still see that there are some office buildings in there. There's some office space. Now, by itself, this is not a big problem. Now, I don't think that this is a major part of their portfolio. I don't think personally for me that it's a big enough part for me to even really worry about when I look at investing in them. However, if they look at their overall portfolio and how diversified it is over different types of property, different categories of property, they can begin to say, hey, look, we've got these office spaces here. The office spaces are not well loved by some investors. Therefore, the investors are going to be pushing down the overall value of the entire portfolio. And that's not good for us. And you know what? That may be right. Is it really that much of a concern? Absolutely. In some cases, yes. Look, a specialized real estate investment trust or a specialized REIT, it is going to trade at higher multiples of price to adjusted funds from operation. Sure, absolutely great. By itself, though, the slightly lower prices here I don't think are a major concern for this multiple, for this valuation for WPC. But they've stated it is. Now, they've also talked about spinning off, pushing out this office, and then using the funding coming in to begin to repay down some of their debt. Now, that is absolutely fine. I think that's absolutely admirable. Let's pay off some of that debt. Let's get rid of the risk of this debt that is holding the company down, particularly in the current environment of higher interest rates for longer. So yeah, absolutely. This is good. That's fine. That makes sense. Let's talk about how and why they want to get rid of this office, though. We've talked about the why. Let's talk about the how. What's going on with this plan? There's two tranches there. Number one is they're going to spin off part of the assets into a separate company. So the current thinking is that the shareholders in WPC will get some of the shares in this new office block, office REIT. This has been done before. Tell me if you can remember originally here in the recent history who has done this. And yes, it was Realty Income. They spun off Orion offices. I sold mine soon after, I think, the spin-off from memory. It seemed to be lower quality offices as well, and I suspect what we'll begin to see here with WPC, if they go down this pathway, is again, it's going to be slightly lower quality offices that I probably wouldn't want in my portfolio anyway. So chances are good when they spin off, we're going to see a substantial selling pressure as that hits the market, as many investors begin to reevaluate their holders, as many investors begin to reevaluate the holdings that they have, as other institutional investors begin to say, hey, look, this isn't a fit with the profile. Okay, so a spin-off, yes, we could argue for that, but they're also going to be doing that fast. They're going to be splitting it off fast. They're going to be doing it fairly furiously, as well as putting other office blocks on the market as well. And again, they're looking to dispose of those office properties really quite quickly. Now, again, not a big problem. But behind the scenes, they haven't really explained to me as an investor why the rush. One of the things that they have is time. Yes, high rates are going to hurt their business a little bit, but really? Are the high rates going to hurt their business that much? I wouldn't have thought so, which means either they're hiding something behind the scenes, which me, as an investor, I really want to know about, or they're just rushing into this. Either way, they could have flagged this earlier as something that they were looking at or something they were thinking about. The market does not like these types of surprise news stories coming out. The market doesn't like, analysts don't like, investors like me, I don't like fairly big substantial news about the overall portfolio of this company being sprung on me and then being pushed out as saying, look, this is going to happen and it's going to happen really quickly. And we don't really necessarily have such a good explanation about the how or the why we're doing this, and we need to move so quickly. So I've got some major issues here with how quickly management wants to move, how they've communicated this at a fairly last minute, it feels a very last minute sort of communication to the market. The explanations themselves for doing it in this way have been fairly weak in my mind. And to be honest, I thought WPC, I had a high level of confidence in their management after this. And now I've got substantially less. And I'm just looking at these decisions, looking at these communications and wondering what's going on. So the final piece of the puzzle is, yes, if they suddenly begin to offload a whole load of their properties, it means less money coming in. Less money coming in means what's going to happen to the dividends flowing out. Now, a real estate investment trust, a REIT, has to distribute 90% of their earnings. Okay, so if the level of earnings comes down, then we might expect the level of dividends flowing out to investors to also decrease. Buried away in all of the fine print, they did touch on that, and they talked about normalising at a relatively good rate. Now, a couple of things there. Yes, I think the payout ratio that they are targeting, I think from memory, was about 70%. Love it. Sounds safe, sounds secure. But doing that at the same time as dropping the adjusted funds from operation, the money coming into the company, that sounds to me like they're indirectly saying, hey, look, guys, there's going to be a dividend cut. Now, my estimations is it's not going to necessarily be a huge dividend cut. I'm picking maybe 10 to 20% dividend cut. But the key thing is they haven't communicated this. They haven't talked about this. What's going on? Why can't they just say directly, hey, look, guys, we're looking at a dividend cut? They haven't. They smuggled it into the fine print, into the notifications about the what and the why they're doing this without actually tackling this up front. Now, as a consequence of this, fundamentally, I'm looking at the management team and I'm beginning to think, look, fairly rushed execution here, poorly communicated to the analysts and to share markets and to investors, not really a clear communication about this. I'm concerned about the rush and I'm concerned about the impact on the dividends. And again, I'm concerned that this was not clearly talked about, it was not clearly communicated. Now, for me, for my long-term perspective and belief here about WP, that's damaged it. I can forgive spinning off, I can forgive selling off some assets, but the way in which they've done this, the way in which they've handled it, I've just lost a lot of the confidence that I did have in the management team. Now, hopefully out of this, we do have a more focused portfolio of quality properties. Out of this, hopefully they do pay down some debt. Out of this, hopefully they normalise the dividend payout ratio at a sustainable and safe and secure level. All of this will be good. Over time as well, I would hope to see that the credit rating begins to bump up a bit, to hopefully push into the A's, I would guess, is their long-term S&P credit rating of an A minus perhaps, or the monthly realty income, the monthly dividend payer company. That's what I expect they're trying to achieve. For me as an investor, they've destroyed this massive track record, a multi-decade track record of careful management, of conservative management, of building up this vast real estate empire and continuing to pay a dividend and maintaining a good dividend payout ratio and increasing that dividend through thick and thin. And I'm just not quite sure why they would want to throw that away with what appears to be hasty, rushed, sudden decisions which have been poorly communicated. Look, this is my opinion. Wrap this up. What am I doing? On the face of it, the current share prices look quite attractive. I noticed in the last day that the share prices have tipped down with the overall market as these concerns about the higher for longer for interest rates, they have percolated, they've continued. I'm looking at WPC. I'm looking at, I guess, a price target for me of about 55 to 60, leaning towards the $55 per share. But to be honest, I'm just absolutely shaken by the management decisions here. I'm shaken by the way in which I've now, reflecting on it, I've lost a substantial amount of the trust and confidence I had in that management team. And on my scorecard, I'm downgrading my confidence in the management team capabilities and skill. And as a result of this, it's looking less and less like an important holding for me. Now, I'm not selling off in a hurry here. I think they're still going to have a good dividend yield. I think there's still some good long-term dividend appreciation here. But for me, it's not holding the same glow, the same attraction to me, for example, that Realty Income currently holds. Yes, WPC is good. Yes, I think ultimately what they're trying to achieve here is laudable. I'm just not a fan of how they're doing it. I am not a fan of how they're communicating about it. And as a result, I'm not going to be selling and closing the position at this point in time, but I'm certainly not going to be adding to the position aggressively with the share price drops. So look, in the last day, the share prices have come down below my $55 per share revised target. But again, until I can get some clarity on these dividends, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to wait and be patient with this. Now, over time, again, look, those dividends are going to keep on flowing. I have no doubt about that. But I do want to see what they do. I do want to see what management says. Now, I guess one other point that we could talk about is, hey, look, maybe with all of this noise, with all of this feedback, maybe the management team changes their mind. Okay, sure, they might do that. But what does that mean to me as an investor? It means that they're just going to be a flip-flop management team. It doesn't inspire confidence that they don't really seem to know what they're doing if they flip and flop in the face of skepticism, in the face of criticism from investors and analysts. Again, that's not building up my confidence in the management team. It's not building up my confidence in the decisions that they are making. So again, I don't necessarily want to see them flip-flop, but I do want to see more clarity around the dividends. I do want to see what they are thinking, what they believe is going to happen to the dividends and that dividend payout ratio, and I want to see them address this explicitly. Now, if all of those answers are going to look good, if they can say and make the right noises and show and demonstrate some decision-making here, which is going to build up my confidence, I will add to my confidence and I will eventually begin to add to that position. But I really cannot see that happening in the short term. So look, that's my perspective on W today. What do you think? Is it one of your holdings? Is it part of your core holdings, or is it a big part of your investment portfolio? Let me know in the comments down below what you think about WPC, what you think about the situation, and what you are going to be doing in the future. Let me know, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.